Imagine a state of profound inner peace, where suffering, stress, and relentless thoughts simply vanish. Sounds impossible? Well, this is precisely the central goal of Buddhism, attaining nirvana. Today, we will explore this fascinating idea that has spanned centuries of spiritual seeking and still deeply resonates in our modern lives. But before we continue, I want you to pause for a moment and reflect. How many times have you felt overwhelmed by a whirlwind of thoughts, worries, and responsibilities? How often have you wished for a way to escape this constant feeling of dissatisfaction or mental chaos? If this has ever happened to you, and I bet it has, then this video was made especially for you. Here's a secret. Nirvana is not something distant or unattainable. It is directly connected to our daily lives, our choices, thoughts, and relationships. Throughout this video, we will unravel what nirvana truly means, why it is so important in Buddhism, and how it can inspire you to find more balance, clarity, and purpose. Have you ever stopped to think that perhaps the answer to your deepest questions about the meaning of life is closer than you imagine? What if I told you that nirvana is not a far-off destination, but a journey that begins here and now, within you? This idea may sound revolutionary, but it is exactly what we will explore together. So, take a deep breath, relax, and join us on this transformative journey. Before we move forward, I'd like to extend a special invitation. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, click the subscribe button now. Here we share practical wisdom and inspiring stories to help you navigate life with more ease and serenity. Plus, by subscribing, you'll stay updated with content that can transform your perspective and enrich your spiritual journey. In this space, we aim to create a community of people who seek growth, inner peace, and connection to something greater. So, if that resonates with you, become part of this journey. Click subscribe and activate the bell icon to receive notifications whenever we release new videos. Now, get ready to dive into a deep exploration of nirvana. We will uncover its mysteries, understand how it can be applied to our daily lives, and discover how it can help us transcend mental chaos and find true peace. This is just the beginning of a journey that promises to be both inspiring and transformative. To understand nirvana, we need to start with the basics. What does it really mean? The word nirvana comes from Sanskrit and literally means extinction or blown out breath. But what exactly is being extinguished? In the Buddhist context, nirvana represents the end of suffering, illusions, and desires that bind us to the continuous cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, known as samsara. Think of it as extinguishing the fire of dissatisfaction that burns within us. When we manage to put out this fire, we are liberated into a fulfilling existence, free from attachment and fear. This concept may sound abstract at first glance, but it is deeply practical and accessible. It does not refer only to a distant state or something we achieve after death. On the contrary, nirvana can also be experienced in the present, as a state of profound inner peace, mental clarity, and emotional freedom. Imagine, for example, those rare moments when you are completely present. Perhaps while watching a vibrant sunset, feeling a gentle breeze on your face, or hugging a loved one. These moments of pure connection are small glimpses of what nirvana can be. They occur when we let go of our worries about the future or resentments from the past and simply allow ourselves to be here and now. These moments may seem brief, but they carry the essence of what Buddhism calls liberation. But what exactly prevents us from living like this all the time? To answer this question, we need to explore the concept of samsara. Samsara is the continuous cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, but it can also be understood as the cycle of thoughts, emotions, and mental patterns that keep us trapped in suffering. It's like being on an emotional roller coaster, moving between fleeting moments of happiness and periods of pain or dissatisfaction. Nirvana, on the other hand, is like stepping off this roller coaster onto solid ground, where we can finally find balance and peace. Here's the key point. Nirvana is not something external, it is an internal transformation that begins here and now. You don't need to live in a monastery or abandon your current life to experience it. In fact, it can be found in the simplest things of everyday life. For example, imagine yourself preparing a meal. Instead of doing it automatically, distracted by thoughts about work or personal problems, you decide to be fully present. You smell the aroma of the spices, hear the sound of the knife chopping vegetables, and feel the texture of the ingredients in your hands. In that moment, you are not thinking about the past or the future. You are fully living in the present. This state of total presence is a small step toward nirvana. Another way to visualize nirvana is to imagine a room full of dusty furniture. The dust represents our attachments, desires, and illusions. When we clean the dust, the room reveals its true essence, clean, clear, and peaceful. Similarly, nirvana is the state of our mind when we remove the layers of confusion and attachment that obscure our true nature. To make this concept even more tangible, think of a person who constantly worries about what others think of them. This concern is like an invisible chain that traps them in a cycle of anxiety and insecurity. When they realize that these external opinions do not define who they truly are, they begin to free themselves from this mental prison. This gradual liberation is nirvana in action. Now, imagine how it would feel to access this state of inner peace whenever you want. Wouldn't that be transformative? That is the promise of nirvana. It is not just a philosophical concept, but a real possibility for all of us. And the first step to achieving it is understanding that it is not somewhere far away. It is already here within you, waiting to be discovered. So, how do we get there? How can we walk the path to nirvana? The answer lies at the heart of Buddha's teachings, the Four Noble Truths. These truths serve as a practical map for dealing with suffering and finding liberation. They are not just philosophical concepts but concrete tools that can transform the way we see and live life. The first truth acknowledges something we all experience at some point. Life inevitably contains elements of dissatisfaction, pain, and impermanence. This is not pessimism but an honest observation of the human condition. Think about it for a moment. How often have we sought happiness in fleeting things, a new job, a relationship, a material possession, only to realize they don't fill the void we feel? Perhaps you've bought something you thought would change your life, like the latest smartphone or the perfect outfit, but after a few days it lost its shine. Why? Because external things cannot permanently satisfy us. They are like waves in the ocean. They rise, shimmer for a moment, and then disappear. The second truth points to the cause of this suffering: excessive desire, attachment, and ignorance. These mental patterns keep us trapped in the cycle of samsara, perpetuating the cycle of pain. Imagine holding a cup of hot coffee. If you cling to the idea that the coffee must be perfect, at the right temperature, with the right flavor, any small variation can lead to frustration. This attachment to expectations is what keeps us bound. Now, imagine letting go of that need for control. You can still enjoy the coffee, but without the emotional burden of needing it to be perfect. This release from attachment is a crucial step toward ending suffering. The third truth brings hope. It is possible to end suffering. Nirvana is not a distant concept. It is a real possibility for all of us, regardless of who we are or where we are. This truth is like a lighthouse in the darkness, showing that there is a way out. But to reach it, we must follow the path outlined by the fourth truth. The fourth truth reveals the path to achieving this liberation, the Noble Eightfold Path. This path includes practices such as right understanding, right intention, right speech, and meditation. It teaches us to live ethically, mindfully, and in balance. Let's explore this with a practical example. Imagine you're in a work meeting, and someone offers constructive criticism about your performance. Instead of reacting defensively or with anger, you decide to practice right speech and right action. You listen attentively, reflect on the feedback, and respond with calmness and clarity. This small act of mindfulness not only improves your relationships with others but also contributes to your own inner peace. These truths are not dogmas but invitations to reflect on our lives and choices. They show us that the path to nirvana begins here and now, with small daily transformations. There's no need to make big changes all at once. On the contrary, every small step counts. For example, throughout the day you can practice mindfulness while walking to work, noticing the movement of your feet and the sensation of the air on your face. Or you can practice loving kindness by sending positive thoughts to someone going through difficulties. These simple actions, when repeated consistently, create a solid foundation for spiritual growth. To make this concept even more tangible, think of a garden. If you want to cultivate vibrant flowers, you need to prepare the soil, remove the weeds, and water the plants regularly. Similarly, the Noble Eightfold Path is like a guide for tending to the garden of the mind. Each practice, from right understanding to meditation, is like a tool that helps nurture our spiritual growth. Now, imagine what it would be like to live in a state where suffering no longer has power over you. Wouldn't that be liberating? That is the goal of the Four Noble Truths, to show that the path to nirvana is not an unreachable mystery but an accessible and practical process. And the best part? It begins with the small choices we make every day. Now that we have a better understanding of the concept of nirvana and the path that leads us to it, it's time to explore how we can experience this in practice. One of the most powerful tools for this is meditation. But before we dive into this topic, I want you to imagine your mind as a lake stirred by the waves of stress, anxiety, and incessant thoughts. These waves may seem uncontrollable, but meditation is like dropping a stone into that lake, creating ripples that eventually calm its waters. As we sit in silence and observe our minds, we begin to notice the patterns that keep us trapped in suffering. This awareness is the first step toward transcending them. In Buddhism, practices like mindfulness meditation and vipassana meditation, known as insight meditation, are fundamental. They help us cultivate presence, calmness, and clarity. But what does this mean in practice? Let's explore with concrete examples. Imagine that you are practicing mindfulness during a simple walk in the park. Instead of walking distractedly, thinking about the tasks of the day or the problems you need to solve, you decide to be fully present. You pay attention to the sound of your footsteps on the ground, the gentle breeze touching your face, and the steady rhythm of your breathing. Perhaps you notice the smell of the flowers around you or the distant sound of birds chirping. In this moment, you are not worried about the future or dwelling on the past. You are fully living in the present. These moments of total presence are small steps toward nirvana. They show us that inner peace is not something distant. It can be found here and now, even in everyday activities. Another practical example is seated meditation. When we sit in silence, close our eyes, and focus on our breath, we begin to notice how many thoughts arise in our minds. Some may be pleasant, others unpleasant. But instead of reacting to them, we learn to observe them without judgment, like clouds passing through the sky. This practice gradually teaches us not to identify with our thoughts but to recognize them as temporary events that come and go. This is liberating because it helps us create space between ourselves and our emotions, reducing their impact on us. Remember, nirvana is not something we can force or achieve instantly. It is a gradual process like the blooming of a flower. Each meditation session, each moment of peace, and each thought observed without judgment paves the way to this liberation. Think of it as caring for a plant. If you water a seed every day, it will eventually grow and bloom. Similarly, every small effort we make in our meditative practice contributes to our spiritual growth. To make this process even more accessible, let's explore some practical suggestions. First, start with just 5 minutes a day. Choose a quiet moment, sit comfortably, and focus on your breath. Don't worry if your mind wanders. That's normal. The key is to gently bring your attention back to your breath whenever you notice you've drifted off. Over time, you can increase the duration of the practice as you feel more comfortable. Second, try integrating mindfulness into daily activities. In addition to the walk we mentioned, you can practice mindfulness while washing dishes. Feel the texture of the water, the smell of the soap, and the movement of your hands. These simple moments can turn into opportunities to cultivate inner peace. Finally, remember that meditation is not about achieving a perfect state of calm all the time. It's about learning to observe your mind with curiosity and compassion. Sometimes you may feel frustration or impatience during the practice, and that's okay. These feelings are part of the process. The key is to persist, knowing that every small effort counts. Now, imagine being able to access this state of tranquility whenever you need it. Wouldn't that be transformative? That's the promise of meditation. It offers us a practical way to connect with our true nature and, little by little, move closer to nirvana. Although nirvana is often associated with monks meditating in remote mountains, it is not exclusive to those who live a monastic life. In fact, Buddhism teaches us that nirvana can be experienced in everyday life by people like you and me. There's no need to abandon your routine or isolate yourself from the world to access this state of inner peace. On the contrary, it can be found in the simplest things of daily life. Living with mindfulness, or attention to the present moment, is a practical way to bring the principles of nirvana into our daily routine. But what does this mean exactly? It means being fully present in each moment, whether you're savoring a cup of tea, walking down the street, or talking to a friend. When we are fully present, we let go of worries about the future and resentments from the past, creating space for inner peace. It may sound simple, but this practice can profoundly transform the way we live. For example, imagine turning a simple task like washing dishes into a moment of deep connection. Instead of doing it automatically, distracted by thoughts about work or personal problems, you decide to be fully present. Feel the texture of the water running over your hands, the gentle scent of the soap, and the smooth motion of your arms as you scrub the dishes. In this moment, you're not thinking about what you need to do next or what happened before. You're fully living in the present. This total presence can be a way to extinguish the fire of stress and mental distraction. It's as if you're cleaning not just the dishes, but also your mind. Another practical example is practicing mindfulness during a meal. How many times have you eaten while watching TV or scrolling through your phone, without really noticing the taste of the food? Now, imagine sitting calmly at the table, observing the vibrant colors of the food, smelling its delicious aroma, and savoring each bite with full awareness. This small act of presence transforms something so routine into a rich and meaningful experience. And the most interesting part is that these moments of mindfulness are small glimpses of what nirvana can be. They show us that inner peace is not somewhere far away. It can be found here and now, even in seemingly mundane activities. Moreover, practicing compassion and loving kindness, known as metta, toward others also brings us closer to nirvana. When we cultivate these qualities, we begin to dissolve the walls of the ego and connect with something greater than ourselves. Imagine you're standing in line at the grocery store, and someone ahead of you seems impatient or irritated. Instead of reacting with judgment or frustration, you decide to send thoughts of kindness to that person. Mentally, you wish them peace and happiness. This small gesture of compassion benefits not only the other person but also opens your own heart, allowing you to experience a state of connection and harmony. This state of connection and harmony is a living expression of nirvana. To make this practice even more accessible, let's explore some practical suggestions. First, choose an everyday activity to practice mindfulness. It can be something simple like brushing your teeth, taking a shower, or even waiting for your coffee to brew. During this activity, focus completely on what you're doing. Notice details that usually go unnoticed: sounds, smells, textures. Over time, this practice will become natural, and you'll start to notice subtle changes in how you perceive the world. Second, try integrating the practice of loving kindness into your routine. Every day, take a few minutes to send positive thoughts to the people around you. You can start with someone close, like a friend or family member, and then expand to strangers or even to those with whom you have difficulties. This practice gradually expands your capacity for empathy and compassion, bringing you closer to the state of nirvana. Finally, remember that living mindfully doesn't mean achieving a perfect state of calm all the time. It's normal to feel distractions or impatience during the practice. What's important is to persist, knowing that every small effort counts. Each moment of mindfulness, each gesture of compassion, and each thought of kindness are steps toward liberation. Now, imagine being able to find inner peace in any situation, regardless of external circumstances. Wouldn't that be liberating? That's the promise of mindfulness. It offers us a practical way to connect with our true nature and, little by little, move closer to nirvana. We've reached the final step of our journey, and perhaps the most important one. Understanding that nirvana is not an endpoint but the beginning of a new way of living. Many people think of nirvana as a kind of paradise or a static state of eternal happiness. However, in the Buddhist view, it is much more dynamic than that. Nirvana is not a place where everything is perfect and unchanging. It is a state of continuous transformation that allows us to face life with wisdom, compassion, and equanimity. Reaching nirvana means transcending the illusions that limit us, but this doesn't make us immune to life's challenges. Instead, it empowers us to face these challenges with a new perspective. It's as if we've been freed from an invisible prison. Now we can walk through the world with lightness, even when circumstances are difficult. Imagine someone who has spent years carrying a heavy backpack full of stones, each stone representing a fear, an attachment, or a limiting belief. When this person finally decides to let go of the stones, they feel an incredible sense of freedom. They may still encounter steep climbs and rough paths, but now they walk without the extra weight. This is the essence of Nirvana, an inner freedom that allows us to navigate the highs and lows of life with more grace and serenity. Another fascinating aspect is that, upon experiencing Nirvana, we often feel a deep desire to help others find their own liberation. This ideal is known as the Bodhisattva, someone who delays their full entry into Nirvana to assist all beings in achieving enlightenment. It's a reminder that the spiritual path is not selfish. It deeply connects us to one another. Think of it like a lantern in a dark night. When you find the light within yourself, you naturally want to share it with those still in darkness. This desire to help others is not just a consequence of reaching Nirvana, it is also an integral part of the process. By practicing compassion and loving kindness, you strengthen your connection to the world and deepen your own inner peace. To make this concept even more tangible, let's explore some practical examples. Imagine you're in a relationship and face a disagreement with your partner. Before reaching a state of greater awareness, you might react with anger or frustration, fueling the cycle of suffering. But now, with the wisdom and clarity that come from practicing mindfulness and detachment, you choose to respond differently. You listen attentively, speak kindly, and seek a solution that benefits both of you. This small act of compassion not only improves your relationship but also reinforces your own inner peace. It's a clear example of how Nirvana doesn't happen in isolation. It manifests in our daily interactions. Another example could be how you handle stress at work. Perhaps you're having a particularly tough day with tight deadlines and demanding colleagues. Instead of succumbing to the pressure, you decide to practice equanimity. You take a deep breath, acknowledge your emotions without identifying with them, and continue working with focus and calmness. This mental state not only boosts your productivity but also inspires those around you to adopt a calmer attitude. In this way, you become a source of peace and harmony, positively influencing your environment. Therefore, Nirvana is not just about getting there, it's about transforming who we are here and now. Every small step toward mindfulness, compassion, and detachment brings us closer to this realization. Remember, this transformation doesn't happen all at once. It's a gradual process like the growth of a tree. Every small action we take, whether it's a gesture of kindness, a moment of mindfulness, or a conscious decision, is like a seed planted in the soil of our mind. Over time, these seeds grow and blossom, creating a richer and more meaningful life. Now, imagine what it would be like to live in a state where you not only find inner peace but also become an agent of positive change in the world. Wouldn't that be extraordinary? That's the promise of Nirvana. It offers us a way to transcend our limitations while deeply connecting us to others. And the best part? It begins here and now with the choices we make in every moment. We have reached the end of this profound journey into the concept of Nirvana and its central role in Buddhism. I hope this video has brought clarity to this sublime yet accessible state. Remember, Nirvana is not reserved for just a few enlightened beings. It is an open invitation to all of us to transcend suffering and find inner peace. No matter who you are or where you are on your spiritual journey, Nirvana is a real possibility here and now. As we reflect on what we've learned today, from the Four Noble Truths to the practice of meditation and living mindfully in daily life, we realize that the path to Nirvana is in our hands. Every conscious choice, every moment of presence, and every act of compassion brings us closer to this state of freedom. These small steps may seem insignificant at first glance, but they have the power to profoundly transform the way we live. It's like building a bridge. Each plank may seem small, but together they carry us to the other side. If this video touched your heart or brought new perspectives to your spiritual journey, I'd like to make a special request. Share it with someone who might also benefit from these teachings. Perhaps you know someone who is seeking answers, facing challenges, or simply interested in exploring the world of spirituality. By sharing this content, you'll be helping to spread light and wisdom, contributing to more people finding their own path to inner peace. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do so now. Here we share Zen stories, Buddhist teachings, and reflections on spirituality to help you navigate life with more wisdom and serenity. When you subscribe, you're not only supporting our work but also ensuring that you stay connected to content that can inspire and transform your life. Plus, don't forget to activate the bell icon to receive notifications whenever we release new videos. That way you'll never miss an opportunity to learn and grow. Finally, remember, Nirvana is not somewhere far away. It is here in this very moment, waiting to be discovered within you. Often we seek happiness and peace in external places, in relationships, careers, or material possessions. But these things are fleeting. True peace can only be found when we look inward and begin to cultivate mindfulness, compassion, and detachment. Every small effort we make in this direction is a step toward liberation. Now, imagine what it would be like to live in a state where you not only find inner peace but also become a source of harmony for the world around you. Wouldn't that be extraordinary? That's the promise of Nirvana. It offers us a way to transcend our limitations while deeply connecting us to others. And the best part? It begins here and now with the choices we make in every moment. Until next time, and may peace always be with you. May your journey be filled with wisdom, serenity, and transformation. Thank you for being here with us and for embarking on this journey of self-discovery and growth. See you in the next video.